This Corecon training video focuses on a feature found in the Human Resource or HR module called Labor or Craft Codes. These can be used several ways. For example, architects, engineers, and construction firms often use labor codes or staff types to identify various occupations that are required on a project. These labor codes can be imported and used for setting payroll rates for time cards. There are situations where these are used for union rates or prevailing wage rates. When labor codes or craft codes are used for union and prevailing wage rates, you should only be implementing when rates are standardized. In this scenario, the labor item pay rates will override any rate specified in the employee profile form. One way of accessing these labor and craft codes from Corecon is from the main menu under HR, and then the third item on the list is labor craft codes. There's a few things to remember. First, that labor items are shown both in the estimating cost database and human resource modules. Both of these primary features access the same record. However, the rates are kept separate within that record. When entering a labor time card, and when Corecon encounters more than one rate, it relies on a decision hierarchy. Labor or craft codes are project-specific and trade-specific. Therefore, they do not reference an employee's name. An employee rate also can be project-specific, and in that case, the rate is tied to a project. It's also linked to the employee's name. Then there's a standard payroll rate. The standard payroll rate is not job-specific, but is employee-specific. So when Corecon encounters several rates, it first looks to the labor codes or craft codes to find a rate. If it does, that'll be the rate it uses. If it does not, it's going to go to the employee pay rate that is project specific. If it does not find that rate, then it relies on the employee standard pay rates, again, which are not project specific, but are employee specific. So for that reason, when we go back to the HR module and to the labor craft codes, you can see labor craft codes are generic based on a trade or craft. They do not reference a specific employee. Another key point to remember is that when you're entering labor codes or craft codes in Corecon, you're trying to come up with a total labor cost. That means that items deducted from an employee's paycheck or withholdings would not count toward a total labor cost. Total labor cost is the gross wage plus any fringe benefits or fees paid by the employer out of their pocket. In this case, we're looking at a plumber's union. You can see there's a gross wage and a net taxable wage. But the portion that we're concerned with is the gross wage plus the 4 fees or fringe benefits to the far right. We also need to notice that some are a dollar amount per hour, while others, like the dues, are a percentage of the gross wages. Although these other withholdings that bring gross wages to net taxable wages are important on the payroll check, in Corecon's case, we're trying to calculate total labor cost. So that is the employer's out-of-pocket expense. We also note that there is straight time, overtime, but there's also apprentice time. Apprentices make a different rate depending on the number of years of experience. We're going to cover 2 ways of adding labor and craft codes. From the HR module, next to labor and craft codes, if we go to actions, you'll see that we can add these manually or import these from Excel. Let's add the first labor or craft code manually. We'll go to labor craft codes to actions and add manually. We'll try to keep that labor code as short as we can and elaborate on that in the description. It's based on an 8 work hours per day average. And for estimating, we're going to put in some other number. This does not apply to union rates, but putting something in now just so that the item is available to estimators. And then click Add and Next. We can also classify the item and then click Finish. That brings us to the project-specific time card rates, and these are the rates we're talking about in this video. So for estimating and cost database purposes, we've added a rate. But union rates recorded as labor codes or craft codes for time card purposes are going to be recorded in a separate section under the same record. So we'll go down to project-specific time card rates. We'll go to Add Project Rate. We'll select a pay item, and since this is straight time or regular time, we'll select a project and an effective date. The base rate for straight time for a journeyman was $52.73. If we take the combination of the employer share of fringe benefits and fees, you'll recall that 3 of the fringe benefits were dollars per hour, as was the gross rate. But the dues were 4% of the gross. So to come up with the total fringe, we'll take that gross rate times 0.04, the amount that we're going to pay for dues brings us to a total fringe rate. The fringe is the part we see here. We also have a total labor cost, which includes the total fringes, which are the employer share of benefits and fees paid, not the withholdings, plus the gross wage. So our total labor cost is $58.06. So we'll take that total of the fringe benefits and add that here. And if necessary, assign a higher bill rate, or if you're just marking up, you can also enter the hourly bill rate the same as the total cost. And click Save and Close. Back to the labor item list. We also have the option to import rates into Corecon from an Excel template. To find this template, go to the Help Articles, to Getting Started, to Import Options from Excel, and under the Time and Miscellaneous Expense heading, we want to use the template Labor Craft Code Payroll Item Rates. There's information on how to import this, as well as the fields that are available for import, and a sample that's provided. It's also important to note that the labor or craft code must already exist to import rates. So let's go to those labor and craft codes, and I'm just going to search for the prefix that we used. You can see that we have 3 now set up. This code must already exist before you can import rates. To save time, I've already added the labor codes and the pay codes. Notice I'm using the same labor code for both regular and overtime for each of these 3. I've inserted the effective date, the project number, and for this reason it would be a good idea to keep this spreadsheet handy as you add more projects in the future. I have the hourly rate, plus I did the calculations for the benefits to come up with the hourly burden rate. The hourly bill rate, however, came from a different document. This would basically be a cell rate. So these are the 2 columns that we're concerned with for the most part. Once that's ready, I can click File Save, File Close, back out to HR. Now we're going to scroll down to the Payroll Stats section, click Actions, and click Import Payroll Rates. That is not the same as the Actions import from Excel here, because we're importing rates. So it's down to Payroll Stats section, Actions, and Import Labor Payroll Rates. Click Choose File, select the file we just created, and click Open. All 6 records and sets of rates have imported. We're going to go back out to the HR, go to labor craft codes. We'll go back to the journeyman, and the new rates have imported. We'll go to the plumber foreman. Under project specific time card rates, those rates have imported. Back to HR. If you'd like to know more about the information presented in this training video, we encourage you to go to the help articles, down to human resources, to labor craft codes overview. The information covered in this training video, as well as more detailed information, can be found in this help article.